Have you ever met someone who made you feel close one moment and distant the next, like you're standing in the middle of warmth and cold at the same time? That's the world of an avoidant lover, full of mixed signals, quiet emotions, and unspoken fears. They don't chase like others do. Their silence, their hesitation, their timing, it all hides a story of fear, love, and the desperate need to feel safe before they can stay. Dismissive avoidants do chase, but the way they do it is nothing like what most people expect. Have you ever wondered why someone with avoidant tendencies can appear so distant, so cold, and yet somehow you can still feel them around you? You tell yourself they've moved on. You even believe it for a while. But then something small happens. A random message, a like on your picture, a subtle story that seems to echo a memory only you both share. It's confusing, isn't it? Because avoidants don't chase in the traditional sense. They don't run after you, they don't make big confessions, and they rarely show emotion openly. But that doesn't mean they don't chase. They do. They just do it quietly, indirectly, and often in ways that only those who've experienced it can recognize. If you've ever been close to an avoidant, you've already felt it. That invisible pull that doesn't look like a chase but feels like one. The truth is, avoidants chase safety, not people. When they first meet someone, they're intrigued just like anyone else. They get drawn in by the spark, the chemistry, the emotional warmth. They want connection, they want to feel seen, until it starts feeling too real. That's when their inner alarm goes off. Vulnerability to them feels like danger. Closeness equals risk. So what do? They retreat. They pull back not because they don't care, but because they care so deeply that it threatens their sense of control. But here's the irony. The more they pull away, the more they think about you. Avoidance isn't a lack of desire, it's the fear of it. Their chase doesn't happen out loud. It happens in silence. It happens in the quiet moments when they're alone, overthinking, wishing they could reach out without feeling weak. When they start to realize what they're missing, that's when the chase begins. Not with actions you can easily see, but with the emotional energy they send your way. What most people don't realize is that when an avoidant truly cares, their pursuit begins after they disappear. It's not about grand gestures or romantic confessions. It's in the small things, the sudden text after weeks of silence, the random message that seems casual but isn't. That's not coincidence. It's them testing the emotional temperature, trying to see if the door is still open. They're asking silently, "Do I still matter to you? Can I still reach you without getting hurt?" Avoidants often chase through subtle control, not dominance. They'll reappear just enough to feel connected, but not enough to lose their emotional safety net. One of the most interesting ways avoidants chase is through indirect pursuit. They may not message you, but they'll make sure you notice them. Maybe they'll view your story seconds after you post it. Maybe they'll post something that mirrors your mood. Maybe they'll share a quote that perfectly describes your past dynamic. It's their quiet way of saying, "I'm still here." They won't say it outright. That would make them vulnerable. So instead, they use these small gestures to create proximity without risk. For them, chasing is emotional camouflage. It's wanting closeness while pretending not to want it. Another subtle form of chasing is something I call emotional mirroring. When an avoidant misses you, they unconsciously start to reflect your energy. Their tone softens, their jokes sound familiar. Their way of speaking begins to echo the connection you once had. You'll notice it in their timing, in their phrases, in the warmth that sneaks into their words. It's like they're trying to rebuild what they lost, but without admitting it out loud. This makes their presence both comforting and confusing. It feels like connection, yet it's protected by emotional distance. What they're really chasing isn't always you as a person, but the feeling of emotional safety that you represented. Avoidants also chase through curiosity disguised as detachment. After things end, they might ask mutual friends how you've been. They'll act like it's just small talk, but their interest runs deeper. They'll check your social media late at night, linger on your old photos, or hold on to small objects that remind them of you. A playlist, a picture, a scent. They won't admit it, but those moments are part of their chase. They need to confirm that you're okay, that they didn't completely destroy something that mattered. This curiosity is their way of soothing the guilt they feel for withdrawing. You see, dismissive avoidants often struggle with regret, but they process it privately. Their pride won't let them show it. So instead of saying, "I miss you," they'll say, "I just wanted to check in." Instead of admitting, "I'm sorry," they'll say, "I was just thinking about that time we—" Every subtle reach-out is their way of chasing safety while keeping their heart protected. They're torn between wanting you close and fearing the pain that comes with it. Their chase is filled with contradictions. They avoid deep connection, yet they long for it. They distance themselves, yet they crave closeness. They push you away, but then circle back when they feel your absence too strongly. They might not call it chasing, but it's exactly that, a push and pull driven by fear and desire. For them, maintaining emotional control is more important than winning love, but deep down, they still want to feel that love's warmth again. And the strangest thing? Their chase doesn't stop even when they're silent. You can feel their energy long after communication ends. The posts that sound like echoes of your old conversations, the sudden song they share that mirrors your story, the random appearance in your notifications after months, those are all part of their way of staying connected without stepping into vulnerability. Their silence isn't indifference, it's self-protection. When avoidants chase, they do it through time and distance. They wait for emotional safety before making any move. They'll often test how much access they still have to you. If you respond warmly, they might inch closer. If you seem distant, they retreat again. It's a constant cycle of approach and withdrawal. To you, it might look like confusion or mixed signals, but to them, it's survival. They're chasing without chasing, trying to reconnect without losing control. If you've ever loved an avoidant, you've probably learned that their form of pursuit is invisible. You won't see them running after you in public or making bold declarations. Instead, you'll feel their presence in quiet ways, in timing, in intuition, in little coincidences that don't feel random. You might sense that they're watching from afar, caring silently, hoping for another chance without saying a word. That's because for dismissive avoidance, emotional vulnerability feels like walking into fire, but staying away feels like freezing. They live between those two extremes. They may never admit it, but avoidants do chase. They chase through silence, through subtle reappearances, through energy, memory, and attention. Their chase isn't loud. It's quiet, emotional, and often hidden behind pride. And while they may act like they've moved on, a part of them is still running after what they lost, just not in the way you'd expect. So if you ever feel their ghost lingering long after things ended, it's not your imagination. It's them, chasing you in their own way, not with words, not with promises, but with quiet reminders that you once meant something too powerful to forget. Their chase isn't about winning you back. It's about finding peace with the love they couldn't hold on to. But deep down, that silent pursuit is their way of saying, "I wish I could have done it differently." When avoidants start to chase, it usually happens only after they believe you've truly stopped chasing them. When you finally pull back your energy, stop reaching out and focus on yourself, that's when they begin to feel the real weight of your absence. For an avoidant, your emotional distance feels like relief at first. It means the pressure is gone. But once that calm settles in, something shifts inside them. Their walls begin to loosen, their defenses soften, and suddenly, the silence that once comforted them starts to echo. The same person who seemed indifferent now begins to miss you. The one who once avoided closeness starts to wonder how you've been, maybe even checks your social media or finds small excuses to reach out. Avoidants don't pursue love the way others do. They move toward it by stepping back. For them, space becomes the path to longing. It's important to realize that when an avoidant starts to chase, it doesn't always look like chasing in the usual sense. Often, it takes the shape of inner work. While they may not call or text, they start turning inward, asking themselves hard questions about what went wrong. They might read books on relationships, watch videos about emotional attachment, or write down their thoughts trying to understand their feelings. This quiet process is their way of reaching for you, not with words, but through self-reflection. You won't always see it, but inside, they're trying to make sense of the loss. They begin to notice how their patterns pushed someone valuable away and how their fear of closeness cost them something real. When you eventually see them behaving differently, speaking more openly, listening more carefully, or showing patience where they once shut down, it's not random. That's their silent attempt to reconnect through change. Instead of chasing through attention or affection, they chase through growth. It's their way of saying, without saying it, that losing you made them see what they'd been running from all along. Let's talk about mixed signals, because this is where avoidant behavior becomes the most confusing and emotionally draining. One day they might seem warm, sending thoughtful messages, opening up or sharing old memories, and then suddenly they turn distant and cold again. To you, it might look like they're playing games or testing you, but in their world, that back and forth is actually progress. Every time they let their guard down and then pull away, they're testing their limits, measuring how much vulnerability they can handle before feeling overwhelmed. They want closeness, but they also crave safety. That hot and cold rhythm is how they try to balance their deep desire for connection with their fear of rejection or losing control. It's not healthy, and it often hurts the other person, but to them, that pattern feels like a safe way to approach love one cautious step at a time. You'll also notice that avoidants are drawn to steadiness. They're quietly attracted to people who show calm, patience, and emotional stability. If you've shown them respect, clear boundaries, and a grounded kind of peace, you become unforgettable to them. They remember those who made them feel safe without demanding too much, those who didn't push for answers or try to fix their emotional walls. That kind of calm energy feels magnetic to someone who's used to chaos and emotional pressure. It tells them, I can breathe here. I can exist without losing myself. That's what makes them want to come back. Their form of chasing often isn't about attention. It's about trying to earn back that emotional calm you carry. They don't chase to possess. They chase to re-experience that feeling of safety they once felt around you. Another thing about avoidance is their timing. They tend to reappear when you've finally let go, when you've stopped overthinking and started finding your peace again. It's as if they can sense when your energy shifts, when you're no longer tied to them emotionally. That's when they reach out, because to them, your peace signals safety. They don't want to step into emotional chaos. They want to return to a stable, non-threatening space. When they feel that you're no longer hurt, no longer reactive or demanding, they start to feel it's safe to move closer again. This isn't manipulation, it's a survival pattern. They're not chasing the relationship itself. They're chasing the feeling of emotional safety that love once gave them. What looks like distance or indifference is often a deep fear of being hurt again. So how can you tell if an avoidant is truly chasing you and not just reacting out of guilt, loneliness, or habit? The answer is consistency. Watch how they show up over time. The real chase begins when their actions become more reliable, not from fear, but from genuine desire to connect. They'll start taking small but meaningful risks, opening up a little more, initiating contact, making plans, and following through. It won't be dramatic or sudden. It'll be steady, careful, and real. You'll notice sincerity in the little things. Avoidants don't chase with grand gestures or emotional fireworks. They chase with quiet persistence. They might not beg for your attention, but they'll keep showing up. They might not make big confessions, but they'll try to meet you halfway. Their version of pursuit isn't loud. It's patient, quiet, and consistent. And that's what many people misunderstand. Avoidants do chase, but not in the ways we expect. Their pursuit is subtle, hidden in small gestures that whisper instead of shout. You can see it in the way they remember your favorite things, or the moments they check in after weeks of silence. You can feel it in the timing of their messages, the quiet effort to reconnect when you least expect it. They won't say, "I miss you," but they'll ask about something only you two shared. They won't express emotions directly, but they'll find soft, indirect ways to remind you that you still matter. That's how they show they care, through the quiet language of consistency and memory. When their words fail them, their actions speak quietly. They don't chase love in the open because vulnerability feels unsafe. Instead, they move in circles around it, watching from a distance, waiting for the right emotional moment to step closer. They might scroll through old messages or revisit the places that remind them of you. It's not dramatic, but it's deeply human. Their way of chasing is wrapped in silence, in small acts that often go unnoticed. But for them, those little steps are huge. If you're patient enough to read between those silences, you'll begin to see the truth. They're not absent, they're just scared. Avoidance isn't about not caring. It's about caring so much that the weight of it feels unbearable. It's about wanting connection, but fearing the pain that might come with it. So, when you think they've stopped caring because they've gone quiet, remember that silence doesn't always mean indifference. Sometimes it's their way of processing, sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's the start of their only form of chasing, the kind that's slow, invisible, and deeply sincere. Because for avoidance, love isn't a race or a battle to win. It's a fragile balance between safety and surrender. They don't chase to capture, they chase to feel secure enough to stay. Every small gesture, every quiet return, every delayed message, it all speaks the same truth. They're trying in the only way they know how. And though their chase may not look like others, beneath the hesitation lies a genuine longing for connection, a longing that whispers instead of screams, a love that hides but still hopes to be found. When everything is said and done, what we often mistake as indifference in an avoidant person is usually a silent struggle between fear and desire. Deep down, they want love just as much as anyone else, maybe even more. But the path to it feels like walking through fire. To open up means risking the kind of pain they've spent their entire lives trying to avoid. To them, vulnerability isn't a soft landing. It's a drop into uncertainty. So when they care, they hesitate. When they love, they hide. And when they lose someone who once made them feel safe, the pain doesn't fade quickly. It lingers quietly, echoing through their solitude. Avoidants rarely show their heartbreak the way others do. They don't chase dramatically, they don't make grand apologies, and they rarely express their pain out loud. Instead, they carry it in silence, tucked behind routines, distractions, and long pauses. But inside, they replay everything. Every word they didn't say, every time they pulled away when they should have stayed close, every moment they acted distant when their heart wanted to reach out. It's not pride that keeps them quiet. It's fear. Fear that no matter how hard they try, they'll mess things up again. fear that being open will only end in rejection. And yet, the irony is that this silence becomes its own kind of suffering. The very walls they built to stay safe become the cage that keeps them lonely. The distance that once brought peace now brings emptiness. Over time, avoidants begin to realize that love doesn't have to mean losing control. It doesn't have to mean giving up independence or identity. The right connection doesn't take away freedom. It gives it back in a deeper way, the freedom to be seen and still be accepted. But it takes time for them to see this. Sometimes it takes losing the right person to finally understand it. When an avoidant loses someone who truly cared, it's not an instant wake-up call. At first, they convince themselves they're fine. They keep busy, stay calm, and pretend it doesn't matter. But silence has a way of breaking through defenses. Over time, the memories start to surface, not in big dramatic moments, but in quiet flashes. The sound of a laugh, the sight of a message they never deleted, a familiar song playing when they least expect it. That's when the realization hits. They didn't just lose a person. They lost a sense of safety they didn't know they needed. They lost the one space where they could have been their true self without judgment. Avoidants don't chase people the way others do. They chase peace. When they reach back out, it's not always to restart a relationship. Sometimes it's simply to feel close to that calm again, to test if the door is still open, if forgiveness still exists, if maybe there's still a small chance to rebuild what fear destroyed. Their way of chasing isn't loud or obvious. It's made of subtle messages, quiet check-ins, or random memories they share out of nowhere. They won't say, "I miss you," but you'll feel it between their words. You'll sense it in the softness of their tone, in the hesitation before they press send, in the timing that somehow always aligns with your peace. The truth is, avoidants are not heartless. They are wounded hearts that learned too early that closeness can hurt. They grew up believing that emotions were unsafe, that love meant losing control, and that silence was the only way to survive. So they love carefully, they connect cautiously, and sometimes they walk away even when they don't want to, just to feel safe again. But the more they run, the more they realize that safety without connection isn't peace, it's isolation. It's a quiet emptiness that no distraction can fill. In their healing, avoidants begin to learn that love doesn't demand perfection, it asks for presence. It doesn't need constant control, it needs trust. They start to see that the people who stayed calm, who respected their space, who didn't try to fix them, were never a threat. They were the rare ones who understood that love doesn't mean pressure, it means patience. And in that realization, avoidants slowly start to soften. They may not rush back with big confessions, but they begin to show up in small, consistent ways. A message here, a call there, a moment of honesty that breaks through their usual armor. That's their version of trying again. That's their way of saying, "I'm learning how to stay," and maybe that's the real beauty in it. Because even though their love looks different, quieter, slower, less certain, it's still real. It's built on the hope that one day they'll be brave enough to let someone all the way in. Every time they face their fear, every time they resist the urge to run, every time they choose to stay a little longer in discomfort, that's growth. It might not look like much, but for someone who's spent a lifetime hiding from emotions, it's everything. Healing for an avoidant isn't about becoming someone else. It's about unlearning the idea that closeness equals danger and realizing that love can be safe too. If you've ever loved an avoidant, know this: your calm mattered more than you think. Your consistency, your patience, your boundaries, they left a mark. Even if they couldn't express it, even if they never said thank you, they remember how it felt to be around someone who didn't make love feel heavy. You showed them that love could exist without chaos. You showed them that emotional safety isn't found in distance, but in mutual understanding. And that's something they carry quietly, even if they never say it out loud. So when you think about the avoidant chase, remember, it's not about drama or desperation. It's not about control or ego. It's about fear trying to find its way back to love. It's about a wounded heart trying to trust again. It's about the slow, invisible steps someone takes toward closeness after years of believing it was unsafe. And while it may not look like the chase we expect, it's still a form of reaching out, one wrapped in silence, hesitation, and hope. Because in the end, for avoidance, love isn't about chasing to possess someone. It's about chasing to feel safe enough to stay. They don't want to lose themselves in love. They want to find themselves through it. They don't seek a perfect partner. They seek a peaceful one. Someone who feels like calm after a storm, like warmth without pressure, like presence without demand. And maybe that's the lesson we all can take, that real love doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it comes softly, through stillness and sincerity, through effort that doesn't scream but whispers, "I'm here, and I'm trying." And maybe that's what makes their kind of love, though complicated and slow, still deeply human. Because at its core, it's not about avoiding love forever. It's about learning, little by little, how to stay when love finally feels safe enough to hold on to.